4 o'clock, and so that's why we're starting just a few minutes late, so we apologize for that occurrence. So today we're going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance, if we could all stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we proceed to the invocation, I would ask if you could just take a moment to look at your cell phone to ensure that it is either on off, vibrate, or silent, so it will not disrupt the meeting. You just take a moment to do that. Thank you very much. Tonight's invocation will be given by Councilman Bothwell. Councilman Bothwell.
Sorry, I was a little late. Pursuant to Vice Mayor Mannheimer's father's poetry, which often reflects the season, I thought I'd read an excerpt from one of my works that seems particularly apt to me given the time of year and what's going on in the natural world right now. We're lucky enough to live where katydids sing a summer serenade. But I wonder if you've taken time to listen to their plain song. Musical magic echoes through the treetops in late summer, a song 60 feet deep and 1,000 miles long. A song like a river, a song like a storm system swirling through the hot August and September nights. When katydids mature in mid to late August, their moonlight sonata stretches from Georgia to New England. As with whales, most human ears don't sense much nuance in their calls, which someone a long time ago anthropomorphized into katydid. Katydid. A careful listener will hear more than that, however. The sound is a twittering buzz. It conveys the ping of a finger rippling on a stiff comb, the trill of fine bubbles in an aquarium, and something of the sibilant hiss emitted by snakes or pressure cookers. If you climb to a promontory overlooking a mountain cove, you can apprehend the symphony in all its ululating grandeur. Swells of sound exactly like ocean waves roll through the forest canopy. The volume builds on a distant ridge and advances through the bowl of the valley, crashing around you and then continuing on. When someday we hear and understand a coherent message from the stars, as one must suppose we eventually will, I wonder if it too will be music. I wonder if alien bodies boogie down in the light of distant suns, beat drums, blow horns, and pour out their passions in song. I wonder if our answer will be a tedious political speech or a global burst of drumming. I wonder if aliens 50 light years distant are already tuned into Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman, and while others nearer in time and space pick up on MTV. And I wonder if we're already hearing that sort of coherent message from the cetaceans here on Earth. Whales that we're only too self-absorbed to comprehend what we're hearing. I look at a katydid, its big-eyed green face, as weirdly different from my own as any flying saucer pilot's could ever be. Its 6 legs and wings, wiggly abdomen and curved antenna, unlike my own body in almost every detail. And yet I hear their music and I get it. The world is vibrantly alive and singing its heart out. How can I keep from singing?
Thank you, Councilman Bothwell. Next order of business are our proclamations. The first one is a resolution of appreciation to Jeffrey B. Richardson. You want to join me?
Yes.
I'm not sure if Jan has arranged the fireworks, and I don't know if he got that for us. All right, Jeff, this is a resolution of appreciation to Jeffrey B. Richardson. Is your dad here? Oh, thanks. I was just looking to see if your dad was here. Whereas Jeff Richardson began employment with the City of Asheville as its Human Resources Director in 1997 and has now taken the position of County Manager in Cleveland County effective October the 1st, 2013. And whereas with over 22 years of local government experience, Jeff has a proven track record as a local government leader who is community-oriented, collaborative, a problem solver, and one who is active and accessible in the community. And whereas Jeff has served this community well for so many years, including his service on the North Carolina Credit Union Commission and being an adjunct faculty member of Western Carolina University in the MPA program. And whereas Jeff is active in numerous civic organizations, including being a member of the Asheville Breakfast Rotary Club, and his service for several years on the United Way Board of Directors. And whereas Jeff has served city management with dedication, loyalty, energy, and professionalism. And whereas this city council will miss the high-level professional competence provided to the city council by Jeff, and also his integrity, charm, wit, advice, dependability, and friendship. And whereas this city council and prior city councils have had the utmost respect and confidence in Jeff, and whereas Jeff has earned the respect of other civic leaders and the affection of a host of area residents, whereas Jeff's performance of his duties and responsibilities and his working relationship were always characterized by an obvious dedication to a high-performing organization, and whereas this city council, by this resolution, wishes to express its great appreciation to Jeff for the meritorious service, loyalty, and dedication to the City of Asheville, and more importantly, its citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Asheville, that the City Council does hereby commend Jeffrey B. Richardson for many years of valuable service and highly commends him for the manner in which he has carried out his responsibilities and duties. Read and approved and adopted this 10th day, September 2013. Can I have a motion so this will actually be a motion in our minutes? So moved. Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously.
Mayor Bellamy and members of Asheville City Council, thank you so much. It's been a true honor to serve this city for the 16 years that I've been here. The community has provided my family and I with an unbelievable quality of life. That Mayor and City Council, not only this present Mayor and City Council, but the past Mayor and City Councils, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your dedication to this community. Being on this inside of Asheville City government, it's taught me how hard our elected officials' jobs are. We see it every day. The staff talks about it continuously. Boards, council members, you change over. New people come on. People leave the elected position, and I don't believe anywhere in North Carolina do we have a harder working city council year in and year out than we do here in Asheville. Our community demands a lot, and we appreciate that. To Gary Jackson, city manager, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to work with you for the past 8 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. Gary Jackson comes in every day and he sets the appropriate tone in the Asheville City Manager's office for people to do their best work. He's allowed me to do that every day. He's allowed me to be me. He's allowed me to be to look and work with things that I've been interested in. He's been a great person to mentor under, and I've learned quite a bit. And I appreciate that opportunity more than he will ever know. To the department directors, both the ones that currently serve the city of Asheville and the ones that I've served with previously, what a talented group of people. These people come in, we have the opportunity sometimes to promote from in, or sometimes to bring people and welcome them into our community. In every case, our people come on board and they work hard. They join our community, they embrace our community, and they work very hard. To the employees, the folks that I've worked with over the last 16 years, I appreciate your responsiveness. I appreciate your devotion to this community. So many of our employees that work when we're at home in bed and asleep, Saturdays, Sundays, at night, they're here at times when we're with our families. These people mean more to us than we could ever express, and I appreciate that very much to the people that I've worked with over the last 16 years. Finally, to the staff in the city manager's office. I don't know how many of those folks are probably across the hall working, but the folks that are in the city manager's office, I see Dawa. I don't know if there's other folks that made it across the hall, from across the hall.
Tom and Alex are back there.
Yeah. What a great group of people. Again, we see some new faces that are on board in the manager's office. These people come on board and they work very hard. They work hard and they're responsive, and the good stuff that comes out of the manager's office, most oftentimes Gary and I don't even know about it. It's stuff that these people have worked on and handled every day, and they make us all better and stronger, and they provide the services to our citizens that they deserve. Finally, to my family, I appreciate the support that I get each and every day. And Mayor, I appreciate this. I'm going down the hill an hour. I listened very closely to your resolution, and when she mentioned the whip part, that sometimes gets me in trouble. And I want to apologize for that. But it's all meant in good taste. We work hard. We celebrate. We appreciate this community very much, and I'm just down the hill if you need me. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it very much.
Continuing with another proclamation, I would like to call up Mr. Lee. We're going to recognize Minority Enterprise Development Week. And this is a joint proclamation. We're in collaboration with partnership with the county on this one. It reads, whereas strong and vibrant communities involve all citizens in economic progress. Whereas minority enterprise makes significant contributions to our economy. Whereas as we enter in the era of expanded opportunities in economic growth and development and face the economic challenges ahead, it is appropriate that we encourage minority business owners by recognizing their contributions toward the continued economic development of our community. And whereas nationally, Minority Enterprise Development Week is recognized for its importance and economic challenges continue on the national level. Whereas Minority Enterprise Development Week of Western North Carolina Incorporated has provided training and a week-long celebration of minority-owned businesses for the past 30 years. And whereas local observance of Minority Enterprise Development Week will be the week of September 23rd through the 27th, 2013. Now, therefore, we, Terry M. Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, and David Gett, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners for Buncombe County, do hereby proclaim the week of September 23rd through 27th, 2013 as Minority Enterprise Development Week in the City of Asheville and County of Buncombe, and urge all citizens to join the minority business enterprises of our community in appropriate observances. It has my signature and the seal, making it official.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. We really appreciate your continued support with Minority Enterprise Development Week. We are really excited about this year because we have been in existence for 30 years, and as we have continued to develop and advocate and educate our minority-owned businesses within the community of Western North Carolina, we have began to rebrand ourselves. If you haven't noticed or checked out our website, we have a new logo, we have a new updated website, and we're planning some great events for the week of September 23rd through the 27th. Some of those events are SBA programs. We're doing a credit check. We're talking about financing your small business, how to price and budget for your business, starting a better business. And then, of course, our culminating event, our celebration that will take place on September the 26th, which is our 30th annual awards reception at 5:30 at Homewood on 19 Zillicola Street here in Asheville. All of our events have been able to be free and open to the public for the last 3 years because of sponsors like the City of Asheville and Buncombe County, Mission Health, and so many other sponsors, TD Bank, and we really appreciate our sponsors. We appreciate the city support and the county support for our minority-owned businesses, and we really think that this year is going to be a great time because we're 30 years and we hope to be around for another 30 years. So with your support, we'll definitely do it. So we thank you for that.
Council, the next order of business is our consent agenda. We have very few items on the consent agenda, items A through E2. First, I'll ask any member of the community wishing to address council on any item on our consent agenda. Please do so at this time. Seeing no one come forward, council, questions, comments, or a motion? Councilman Smith.
Thanks, Mayor. One of the items on our consent agenda tonight is the adoption of the City Council Strategic Operating Plan. We came together in a retreat back in March to talk about our goals for this year going forward. And in so doing, staff was able to really take what we were saying and boil it down into something that I don't know that we had become conscious of until it was all packaged together in the way that it is. And I encourage everyone to go to the city website and have a look at this, because it's not going to look like any standard strategic operating plan you've ever seen as far as the graphic that illustrates what's there. And what you'll see is a testament to how far this council has come together and the way that we've kind of transformed our strategic planning process and the way that sustainability has come to inform the way that we manage the city. What you'll see reflected in the strategic operating plan is the sustainability triple bottom line of economics, environment, and social equity. And boiling down what we do as a government, as what we do as a city, into that sustainability model, it's A, very satisfying, and B, it's really, it feels as though we are taking the responsible steps to make this the most sustainable community we can. So I'm grateful to the members of council and for staff for kind of letting us know where we'd arrived. So thanks.
All right, Councilman Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor. Item C relates to moving forward, authorizing the city manager to move forward with a contract for design and engineering of a roundabout in the River Arts District. And we got some public input today expressing concern regarding pedestrian bicycle safety in this particular setting for a roundabout design. And I'd mentioned Mr. Putnam earlier that I was going to ask him to offer comments on this. So, Ken, could you explain a little bit about how you see pedestrian bicycle safety relating to the transformation of this intersection?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Most of the time, the roundabouts, the pedestrian safety is really not an issue because all the pedestrian activity takes place before you enter into the roundabout itself. We go to great pains to try to keep pedestrians out of the round portion of it. So as an example, in the middle portion, you would never put a fountain in there because a fountain likes to attract people to throw coins in it. So we want to keep them out. So they work very well. As far as bicycles, there's usually two options that they have to approach a roundabout. The more experienced bicycle riders will a lot of times choose to be with the flow of traffic, They have the same rights as any moving vehicle on the highway, so they can enter the circle just like a vehicle would and just go around, or there's always provisions so that they can exit the street footprint and get onto the sidewalk. The idea is then they would dismount and then walk across the crosswalks to get through it. So that usually accommodates all of the bicycle riders. And as the example that we have in town is the roundabout just outside the building here at the intersection of College and Woodfin, and it works very well. And so I think that we will not see any major problems with pedestrian activity compared to what we have now. The unique thing down there is the fact that we have a five-legged intersection that presents somewhat of a challenge to a roundabout, but once it's in place, it will allow even the vehicles to be able to move around that much easier, and then pedestrian access will be much better defined.
Thank you.
I think that opportunity that we can take advantage of is Healthy Buncombe hosts rodeos on an annual basis, and maybe we can talk to them about a partnership that the bicycle rodeos that they host, that they will talk about roundabouts and how to approach roundabouts. And so I know that we have some people in the audience, Glenn, I put you on the spot, who will help with that endeavor, but it's an opportunity for them to learn about how to navigate our roundabouts as we are moving towards installing even more. And so it looks like Glenn's taking notes feverishly to put that on the agenda. Thank you so very much. I did not hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Council, we have some great updates. We're going to hear an update first from the Economic Development Coalition. We are going to hear from possibly two people, Ben Teague and Paul Zurich. Ben is the VP of Economic Development for the Chamber, and Paul's the chair of the Economic Development Coalition Board. So we'll have the Ben and Paul show for about 10 minutes. Welcome. Thank you all so very much for coming.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, Madam Vice Mayor, for having us here. Just to remind everybody that the Economic Development Coalition is a partnership of the City of Asheville, Buncombe County, Town of Weaverville, and the Chamber of Commerce. Roughly 54% of our funding comes from the government partners, and 46% comes from a large number of private contributors. The purpose is to recruit and grow business and jobs and raise the standard of living in Asheville and Buncombe County. I'm about to turn the mic over to Ben Teague. Before I do that, I want to give some credit to Ben and his staff. This is a unique economic development staff. I know that Councilman Hunt and Manager Jackson are on the board and attend the meetings, and Councilman Davis has been there a lot, and you as well, Mayor Bellamy, and when you were on the board. And you've seen the approach they take that is very well tailored to Asheville and has been, over the last few years, very successful in bringing some great employers and jobs and capital investment to the city. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ben and let him talk about what's been happening over the last few years.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Good afternoon. Let me start the presentation here.
And Ben, if you need to, you can adjust the mic.
Yes, ma'am. Paul's a little taller than
I wasn't
I am.
going to say it. I was going to say it.
Great. Well, it's a great time to be in the Asheville metro area right now. Actually, unprecedented. We are the lowest unemployment rate in the state. And great. And we are also have the fastest job growth rate in the state.
Awesome.
So both at the same time. So unprecedented for us, so it's a great time to be here. But I would suggest that That doesn't happen just out of the blue. It takes a lot of community members, it takes a lot of staff members, it takes a lot of decisions by elected officials like yourself to build a plan and build a community that businesses and people are attracted to. And so thank you for those decisions that have helped lead to that. I also think that it takes a strategy that is a long-term strategy that lays a base for us to continue to grow from. And I was recently quoted in an article, I think it was the Milwaukee Business Journal of all things, and the quote was, "It takes a long time to be an overnight success." And you know, Asheville has been building this strategy for a number of years now. Actually, AVO 5x5 here for 2.5 years. But just to remind you of what that strategy is, you'll see those 5 different areas there on the screen: healthcare, advanced manufacturing, science and technology, arts and culture, and then entrepreneurship. Those are definitely, and I'll show you the focused areas of those are tailored to us, of who we are. This is not a plan that you can take and go take to a different community and say this works for you and this is going to be the solution for you, because it's not. It reflects who we are. Particularly, I'll go into some of the focus areas here. In the healthcare area, since it's a large part of who we are, 20% of who we are, we had not actually addressed in the Economic Development Coalition this area in the past. So 20% of our economy is something that we need to pay attention to. But we do recognize that it's not our job as the EDC to go and to do to hire service and doctors and physicians and nurses that go and provide those services to patients. But how can we utilize some of the innovation that we have and the intellectual property that we have here to further that sector of our economy? So we looked at, as a focus area, commercialization. Let's see if the arrow doesn't work. Commercialization of the intellectual property of the thousands of employees that start at Mission Healthcare, but also of other community members that might be able to utilize innovation commercialization strategy. So we started to think through that. And then support services deals with companies that are here, that want to be here, the decision makers want to be here, that can provide services for medical services across the country, along with some of the significant manufacturing operations that we have here, like Nipro, that's producing medical devices here. Advanced manufacturing, particularly honing in on precision metalworking. We have hundreds and hundreds of workers that are focused on precision metalworking. And if you note the latest GE Aviation announcement which occurred, it's advanced materials, but really the workforce that they had grown here was in precision metalworking. And it's something we have a strength in, actually 12 times more specialized in this skill set than the rest of the nation, and something we needed to advance on. And then outdoor products. As a part of AVO 5x5, and we went through hundreds of meetings trying to determine our economic development strategy that works for us in the Asheville metro area, one thing that they told us and gave us feedback is, don't just harvest the resources that you have currently. Don't just go and say, this is what we're good at, we're going to do more of. How do you plant seeds for the future? Outdoor products is one of those areas. This is planting seeds. We have that story. Look at the resources around us. Look at who we are and that brand that we can develop around that. But in terms of the companies that are here, we're still in that seed phase. So how do we help grow that? And that was a focus of ours. Science and technology, climate, a focus. If you go just down the street here to NCDC, there's hundreds of workers not working on weather, but long-term weather and climate. And if you look at some of the efforts of the real estate of the well, developing commercialization assets for the climate sector. So how can we engage with that? And then sustainability is also the green efforts, and we have a green story, and companies like New Belgium are attracted to the policies. They even told us specifically, we are already down the road in sustainability. We don't have to come and teach the people here how to do that, but we can partner together to further our sustainable mission. And that was one of the reasons that they decided to come here. But it also deals with some of the nutraceuticals and our climate that we have and are so diverse and biodiverse that we can take advantage of some of the nutraceutical opportunities that are out there. Arts and culture, I would say, is very, very different from the rest of the nation. And here's, we've kind of searched across the nation of economic development agencies who include arts and culture in their strategy. We could really only find one that was close, and that was Orlando. But what this means for us is essentially at this point is a branding entity. If you look at Asheville, we are not trying to be the low-cost carrier of the cheapest version in the nation for companies to come here. That's not who we are. However, there is a quality premium that companies see and are attracted to, and that quality premium can be absorbed by the decision makers who have not only a professional interest here, but a personal interest. They want to live here, they want to be here, they want to engage in our community. And if you look at a number of the companies that have come here, that's what you will find is those decision makers that are personally interested in doing business here. Arts and culture, we have found, is what decision makers are looking for. That is a driver for them. If you look at other models across the state, even Durham built a arts and culture center specifically to advance their economic development efforts. So this is something unique to us. And then entrepreneurship is really an area where each of these areas can be entrepreneurial in what they do, and the growth pattern, as we sat down with our leadership, they gave us a very pointed focus of this, of looking at venture, angel capital, high growth companies that can be in any one of these sectors, but this is what they wanted to focus on as a gap, because there's a number of agencies that are out there, Mountain BizWorks and SCORE, that are giving this advice to the companies that are out there, but how can we fill that gap? And that's what this strategy is about. So moving past some of the strategy, we wanted to focus in on some of the results that have happened. And we'll give you results versus our competitors over time, and versus our competitors and versus our goals that we've laid out in AVL 5x5. So this is over time, and on the left-hand side of the screen you'll see since 2005. And the red, am I done?
No. Was that 10 minutes?
That was 10 minutes? Wow.
It went by. Give them 5 minutes.
5 more minutes. I'll bust through this very quickly. The red bar chart is the capital investment. Our previous all-time record was $86 million. As you'll see in 2010, really we saw AVL 5x5 starting to take shape, and in 11 it's formalized, and you can see 230 million, 138 million, 256, and then 135 million to date in 2013. The green bar represents the portion of that capital investment that is city, that was in the city limits. So you can see in 2012, 100% of that capital investment occurred within the city limits, and then about 90% of that in 2011 and 2013 so far. So a significant portion.
Really quickly, what's the bottom number? What was that total jobs announced from 2005 to 2013?
So the number above the announced investment is the capital investment, and then the below, the blue line is the number of jobs announced each year.
Do you have that total number?
The total, I do, and I'll share it here just shortly. This is what those announcements are in the city limits over since 2010 to 2013. It's $520 million, and this is only within the city limits, and then 1,100, just over 1,100 jobs within the city limits. So what does that mean from an economic impact status? You have another 1,800 indirect jobs for a total of nearly 3,000 jobs within the city limits from those projects. And you can see the labor income and the state and local taxes that are derived annually from these projects. This is quickly, I'll buzz through this. The bright green line is Buncombe County from the capital investment per capita versus our competitors, Knoxville, Roanoke, Forsyth, or Winston and Greenville. You can see from 2012 and 2013, we were kind of best in class from our competitive set. Here is a trend of a cumulative capital investment per capita. You can see the green. We really start taking off from our competitive set in 2011 and start making some distance, which is significant. Jobs and jobs, you can see that 2013 we're doing well, but we do better in large capital investment projects. But as a trend, you can still see that we are doing well and holding our own versus our competitive set there. Here's versus our AVL 5x5 goals, 5,000 jobs and $500 million in 5 years. In 2.5 years, we've eclipsed that at $528 million since 2011. So we're happy for that within 2.5 years. Jobs are 5,000 job goal. We currently sit, and that's direct, indirect, and induced jobs. And we currently sit at just over 3,300 jobs, so have passed where we thought we would be in the midpoint for that as well. Here's some logos of companies that have announced here over time. And there's questions. Sorry for running over.
That's okay.
That's a lot of information. Thank you.
And Ben, can you send that to City Council? Because we don't have that presentation, so I would love to have a copy of that as well. I can forward it to Council. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, this is your last presentation before my administration. I just want to say thank you for the partnership. Over the last 8 years, I've had a wonderful relationship with the Chamber, and you have been tops to work with. Serving on your board for the year that I did was an outstanding opportunity for me to see firsthand how hard you all work to create jobs in our community. I will say this presentation does not begin to talk about or capture the essence of what you all do. You didn't even talk about what's in the hopper now, or who you're talking to, or who you're visiting, or who you're meeting with, or who you're going to see, and cultivating those relationships. You didn't even talk about the people who are about to sign, because I know how you work and you think, and I know that there are jobs that are probably being talked about waiting to be announced soon, and I won't steal anybody's thunder. But the thing about it is, the work that you all have done over the last few years has been outstanding. We have weathered the recession in our community because of the strong collaboration that we've developed. Please send Kit my kudos. When she did add arts and culture, she did get a little pushback from the community saying, why are you doing this? But she stood her ground and said, because it's the right thing to do at the right time to do it. And you all have taken that on and have led the charge. One of the things I'm really proud of what you all have done recently is recognized that Mountain BizWorks is good at what it does, but you're good at what you do, and it's a continuum of economic development in our community. You can come with an idea, and you all are not afraid to point them to Mountain BizWorks. And you're not afraid to tell a business that, hey, we can help you grow after you've been established. And I think that's important, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for leading the charge, for your wonderful team of Tim and everybody over there of what you've done. And I just want to say thank you so very much. And Paul, from the board's perspective, thank you all for including the city, that we hear about things, and including Mark and letting Gary sit in as well, and how important that collaboration is, that we're in on the front end of an economic development project and not at the back end, just a handout. But how important that cultivation is. And I know with your new appointment with the Federal Commission, FEC, is that right? Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve. I'm thinking of politics, my bad. How important that is to our community to have somebody of your caliber there and bringing back to our community forecasts of where the economy is going for our nation and how we dovetail to that. And so I'm just really proud of the work that's being done. I wanted to say that publicly and to you all. may not have an opportunity to do that ever again, but I just want to say thank you so very much for embracing this administration as well as working together to make Asheville a vibrant place to work, and I appreciate that. And so, from me to you.
Thank you, Mayor Bellamy, and I can assure you that Ben and his staff and the board reciprocate all of those feelings back to the city and its staff. I mean, it has been, the teamwork over the last few years has been fantastic, and we would not have achieved what's been achieved. None of us would have, I say the we in the broader sense, without that great teamwork and sharing. And it's wonderful how much can be accomplished, as somebody once said, when nobody cares who gets the credit. And I think we all share in the credit for that, and we're lucky. We're very blessed to have that type of working relationship.
Thank you, and I know that Councilman Smith and Hunt has something to say, and give Clark my parlez-vous français, and tell him I got that, and bonsoir, something like that. Go ahead.
Ben, can you take us back to the slide that had all the logos from all the folks who've decided to help create some jobs here? This is, I feel like we should wallpaper someone's office with that. It speaks not only to the quality of the employers they bring in here, but all these different size employers that you're working with to help them do the job creation that we need here. And not only that, but to make sure that we're getting these high standard family wage jobs that are raising the median income of Asheville and Buncombe County. Means a lot. Going forward, this council has identified as a priority re-examining our economic incentives policies and seeing, well, we're doing really well in these regards, and what else can we be doing? And looking around the country to look at other models and having that focus on our homegrown small and medium-sized businesses. So we'll really hopefully be able to rely on your expertise as we have a look at all that.
The city staff did write to us and ask us to be engaged, and we are excited to be a part of that and look forward to having a great in-depth study of some of the best practices along with your staff to do that. So we look forward to engaging with them.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Hunt?
Mayor Bellamy, just a little reflection. I appreciate having served on the board of the EDC the past couple of years. Part of my motivation to go on that board was the awareness that the average wage per job in Asheville is about half of the peak wage elsewhere in the state. And from the standpoint of the economic challenge that our citizens face, a big part of that is better jobs. The 5x5 plan, the strategy that these guys and you, Mayor Bellamy, and others helped spin out is very focused on high-paying jobs. It wasn't mentioned, but I hope people noticed that tourism was not one of the key clusters there, because tourism and hospitality typically doesn't meet that standard for the higher jobs. So that's the kind of focus. When we say this kind of plan, this kind of strategy doesn't necessarily work elsewhere, it's that kind of focus that we've done it. The other thing I'd like to, Ben, you mentioned, or Paul, you mentioned partnership between Buncombe County and the city of Asheville. And I think we've really reached a new level this year in our strategic planning and our capital planning looking forward. The city has really geared the way we want to see ourselves develop as a community and our infrastructure to support and go hand in hand with the kind of image that we need to project to the world to attract those high-paying jobs and better employers too. So I really appreciate, like as Mayor Bellamy said, I couldn't say it any nicer. I appreciate the work that staff and leadership, Paul, at the EDC provide.
Thank you.
Councilman Bothwell.
I'd like to add that because it's a particular area of focus for me, I really appreciate the degree to which sustainability is a piece of the 5x5 plan, and encouraging businesses to show up here who are going to be tuned into what's a major goal of the city council. And I think of citizens in this city. We have the highest per capita ownership of hybrid electric vehicles in the state. We have a lot of people now going for solarized Asheville, wanting to put solar installations on their houses. And I really want to comment here that it's a shame that we're having to go head-to-head with our local power company on things like New Belgium, which wanted to produce 120% of its power. They wanted to produce more power than they use, and Duke will only permit them to produce 80% of the power. So we have corporate partners who want to help us go to a greener future, and we have a power company that's standing in the way. So I hope you help us fight them. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Bothwell. Thank you guys for your presentation and the collaborative nature in which we work together. And I'll just say this, that on the consent agenda, we just approved our strategic plan. And I'm a strong believer, and I think Ben helped teach me this, that government's the foundation by which economic development stands. And so I think our strategic plan dovetails well with your vision as well. And you know, one component we have is the affordable housing piece, or making sure that Asheville is a place that people can afford to live here, so that as we recruit industry here, that their employees have an opportunity to live here. And that's a commitment that this council has had for many years, and I'm hoping will continue into the future. Guys, thank you so very much. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. It will not be a pop quiz at the end, but you can stay all night if you like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, council. We have one other item of good news, international, and I know as I was trying to speak French, bonjour, that's what I was trying to say, bonjour. I know our sister cities was cringing, and so, well, hola, ¿cómo estás? We're going to bring up our delegation from our Asheville sister cities, and Karen's going to come forward, who always does a wonderful job with her Espanol. And, oh, Mayor Martin?
Yes, I'm going to start.
You're going to start? Well,
Yes, I
welcome.
am.
It's good to see you again, and thank you so very much for all that you do.
Thank you. Mayor Bellamy, council members. We at Asheville Sister Cities like to come each quarter to give you an update on what the Sister Cities organization is doing. As you're aware, we are really the cultural arm of the city of Asheville. We have 6 sister cities, and we have 2 of our members who are chairpersons of their respective committees. The first one is Greg Clemens, who is professor of Spanish at Mars Hill University. I'll say that again.
First time it's been said here.
They're very proud of that. And the second is my wife, Karen Korp, who is the chairperson of the Valladolid Committee. So I'll let them go ahead and tell you all about what we are doing now.
Awesome.
Greg?
Work her magic. And forward.
Well, again, thank you to the City Council for inviting me here. Again, I'm Greg Clemens. I teach Spanish at Mars Hill University. And in May of 2013, I took my 8th trip down to Chiapas, Mexico, which is the southernmost state in this nation of Mexico. And I just want to share briefly today some information about that trip. We had an interesting group with us. We had 10 people, including one 1955 alum of Mars Hill University and her husband, two Mars Hill students, one political science professor and her husband on the trip, an Asheville resident very interested in multicultural affairs, a man named Mr. Bruce Waller, and then Mr. Louis Lieb. He's a regular participant with both Mexican sister cities, and my partner and I were also on that trip. I want to focus really briefly today with some aspects of our trip to San Cristobal, the student participation. Like I said, 2 of our students from Mars Hill went on this trip, and both these students came away learning about Mayan history. They got to visit places they had never seen before. In fact, one of the students had never been on an airplane before. And the students also got to see the benefits of civic engagement, because we had a visit with the mayor's office in San Cristobal. Both students received one Sister Cities travel scholarship of $250 each, and this is one project that our organization does fundraisers for, is for providing youth in our community the chance to travel abroad to cities in different countries, and we try to help partially fund their trips. Another aspect of this specific trip in May was we brought medical supplies to a midwife's clinic in San Cristobal called in Spanish Casa de la Partera, which means House of the Midwife. And at this clinic, a trained doctor, she trains women who live in indigenous communities to return to their villages and provide healthy births to the mothers who live there. And so we maintain a good relationship with this organization called House of the Midwives. And finally, our next visit is planned for this coming, well, May of 2014, May or June of 2014, and we invite you all to hopefully come on this trip. And on that trip, we plan to present another letter from Mayor Bellamy to the mayor. And we also plan to visit the midwives clinic again with more supplies for the women there. And also just to see the really beautiful sights and sounds that it is part of southern Mexico. And one last bit about Chiapas is the state itself has the largest indigenous population in all of Mexico, which means there are 33 languages spoken there other than Spanish. And I mean, say languages, not dialects, but 33 different Mayan languages are spoken in the state of Chiapas. And we do invite your participation on future trips. And on this previous trip, I presented a letter from Mayor Bellamy to the mayor of San Cristobal, and today I'd like to present to Mayor Bellamy a letter translated from Spanish into English for you, a letter from the mayor there, whose name is Francisco José Martínez Pedrero, and I'd like to present you with this letter.
You'll stand over there with her. Picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Uno, dos, y tres.
Uno más, por favor. Uno más. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, leave it on that.
Muy bien.
One more, yeah.
Otra. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Perfecto. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to introduce Karen Kaur to talk about our other sister city.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Yep, well, I have a different PowerPoint to share with you. And while we're getting that ready, so the Mexican committees of Asheville sister cities have been very busy this year. So mayor, vice mayor, council, city manager, buenos tardes. We have lots to talk about. It's been a very busy year. Our Mayor Bellamy sent a video greeting to the mayor of Valladolid when they celebrated their CRISPA, 470 years in their founding, and that video was shown to groups, large groups, and thousands of people. We were thrilled about that.
Spanish at that, too.
In Spanish at that, she did very well. We are in the process of planning a delegation to Valladolid in January. We would like to invite any of you to join us because it will be an amazing trip. We assisted 2 AB Tech Global Education Committee members to travel to Valladolid to begin setting up business internships, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. We hosted Mexican Movie Night at Sister Cities in July, well attended. We have a fundraising dinner for youth scholarships coming up September 16th at Havana Comida Latina. I know where you can get tickets, but it is a fundraising dinner. We are working on details for a college student to come from Valladolid to take classes at AB Tech in the culinary program, and we will put the student at business internships. We're very excited about that. Claxton Elementary students just received letters from their pen pals in Valladolid from Carlos Novello Fernandez Elementary in Valladolid, and they'll be making letters to send back. So we're thrilled with that. And so I want to talk for just a minute about Valladolid. Our idea is to connect globally and thrive locally. So our initiative is to tap into our sister city contacts in Valladolid, which is inexpensive to get to, easy to travel to, and it's a very, very safe city, in order to set up international internships for our students. Now, AB Tech has a MOU with ITSPA, which is its counterpart, Instituto Tecnológico Superior de Valladolid. So it's the same type of college that AB Tech is. And as I mentioned, 2 of our Global Education Committee members went down there to begin setting up these business internships. Asheville Sister Cities provided scholarships, and we will continue to provide scholarships for area college students to travel. I would like to note that in the last 2 years, we have provided scholarships to students from 3 area colleges to travel to our sister cities. That's one of the reasons why we raise money. So Valladolid is down in the Yucatan in between Cancun and Merida, easy to get to, absolutely beautiful colonial city. When the 2 AB Tech, Kelly McEnany and Kate Beauvais, were down there in May and June, they identified 5 tracks for students to participate in internships: arts and culture, food, education, brewing, distillation, communications, and service. The idea is that the students will go down for 2 to 4 weeks. They'll spend 20 to 40 hours at internships. They'll be home hosted, and we have a very affordable cost. One of our priorities is the Casa de los Venados. It is the largest private collection of Mexican folk art in the country, perhaps the world. When Kelly and Kate were there in May, John Venator, who you see pictured, called them manna from heaven. The entire collection needs to be photographed, cataloged, and databased, and his board just asked him to take care of it when Kelly and Kate showed up. So this is something that they will be working on, and this is our top priority. John is a wonderful supporter of Asheville Sister Cities Valladolid Committee. Arts. CASA HAMACA has a mural, a Mayan mural that is uncompleted. We want to finish that. Food. We can put our culinary students at CASA HAMACA. I've stayed there. It's wonderful. And again, we're trying to get this whole international experience so that our students can bring that back to our community. The Yucatecan cuisine, which Mayor Bellamy knows, having traveled to Valladolid, is wonderful and diverse. And here's some tamales and ATOLE. Education, of course, is a very strong component of our work. There is now an English language library. We have sent books down to this library and support it. This is something that just has happened in the last year and a half. Health and wellness, another very important character to the program. The blue agave MAYAPAN, you can't call it tequila unless it's made in tequila. And ABTech, as you know, has a distillation program that's beginning, so we see a lot happening there. Distillation and fermentation. Oh, we never visited the tasting room when we were there, absolutely not. So I will tell you that there are other opportunities: communications director, service coordinator, tourism, hospitality, sustainable technologies, cultural activities. Here you see Kelly and Kate up on the top of the Ekbalam pyramid. And again, this is life-changing for students. If, you know, as Greg mentioned, when we give our college students this opportunity, it changes their perspective, changes their view, changes their life, changes their heart and what they want to do. So we have an action plan. We've already begun marketing these programs by application, which was developed and discussed in committee. In December, the Valladolid Committee will be selecting the students for each track for interviews. We'll set up payment schedules. In April and May, a Spanish for beginners. If they don't know Spanish, will be offered. There's a lot of English spoken down there. It's not a problem. And then in June, these business internships will have participants traveling down to Valladolid. So our January delegation, we're going to be firming some things up. Kelly and Kate are in communication with all of our folks down in Valladolid, and this is a very, very exciting new opportunity. Now, I want to stress that any area college student can apply to participate in this program. So we're talking UNCA, Warren Wilson, AB Tech, Cullowhee. We want to invite all area college. So it really reaches beyond just our city limits. So I want you to know that we very much appreciate your support and that of the city, and hope that our time with you today impresses upon you the difference Asheville Sister Cities is making in our community and in our world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Boy, I can't believe I got through all of that.
You did it. You did it.
Any questions? Are there any questions? And no? Okay, we will be back to see you very soon.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
All right, Council, we have a couple of public hearings. One of them, I'm going to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. Actually, we do not have a public hearing, but I need a motion to delay two items, one under the public hearing and one under unfinished business. The first one is item A, the public hearing to consider amending Chapter 7 of the Code and Ordinances regarding agricultural uses. The other is item B, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a development agreement with Mountain Housing Opportunities and Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation for the Eagle Marketplace. And so if I have motions to continue those to the date certain.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Any member of the community wishing to address council on either of those issues? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. We will delay both those issues until September the 24th. Council, the next item of business we have is unfinished business, zoning analysis of properties located on Caledonia Road and Finley Street. I do have a process question. Council, I got a call today from the impacted property owner informing us that he would not be able to be here this evening. I figured out bringing it up to council to see if you want to delay this to the date that he can be here.
Mayor, I don't want to delay this matter, and I think if I understand exactly what it is we're doing tonight, this is more to gauge our desire to move forward with this rezoning, and then the formal process will start. So there'll be other opportunities to participate in this because it will have to go to planning and zoning and then back to city councils. So I personally would like to move forward tonight.
I concur.
Yes.
Okay, I did my job. I brought it to council, and the majority said to move it forward.
All right, Mayor and Council. Last September, the Kenilworth Resident Association residents came before you to request that you consider rezoning these properties, which have been the subject of continuing concern for several years. At that time, you asked staff to prepare zoning analysis and come back to you due to various factors. And I do want to correct this in the report. It says Kenilworth Neighborhood. It is Kenilworth Residents Association. My apologies and thanks to them. It had to be delayed at their request several times and has now come back before you. The property's situation has changed since that report was first written, and this was, here we go, this out. It's to point out all of these properties were zoned institutional last year, but since that time, these small lots up here were subdivided earlier this year, and then you approved a rezoning of them earlier in August. And these were subdivided earlier this year, and you approved a rezoning for some of them last meeting. Another change has been that this 3.5-ish acre property, and I can show it more clearly on another map, okay, was subdivided off and deeded to Riverlink within the past year. So staff adjusted the report to reflect those changes. In looking at a zoning analysis, we took into account the master plan, the prior actions and comments on the properties, the characteristics of the property, the zoning in the area, and the key concerns that have been come up time and time again as we've looked at these properties in the past few years. Staff continues to believe, as we have recommended before, that institutional is not appropriate zoning for the properties. Institutional zoning is a remnant of a time when the Kenilworth Inn was a medical rehabilitation facility, and when a comprehensive rezoning was done in the 80s, which is they just looked at what is the existing use at that time and put a zoning appropriate to it, didn't really look too forward. And they were all one property. There was no thought that they might be subdivided for different uses in the future. So I did provide to you a comprehensive review of the various actions over time. I don't feel the need to go into that. You're very much aware of those changes, but you have them for your reference. The only other change that happened is in 2004, this little property to the north was the subject of a conditional use zoning in conjunction with the change of the Kenilworth Inn to the apartments to create a place for garages. So, given all that evaluation, should the council wish to consider rezoning, the staff has several sets of proposals for you. The first one would be for the Kenilworth Inn property, a small, let me go to the other map. Easier to read. Okay, change this. The Kenilworth Inn property, this small, about 0.61 acre property just to the south of it, and the little conditionally zoned property to the north, we would recommend RM16 for that, residential mixed use, 16 per acre. This would be the equivalent of the zoning allowed now. We would not want to recommend that the inn have lower density zoning than it already has so it can stay conforming. The next change would be for the properties to the immediate south along Caledonia, that's now owned by Riverlink, the property to the east, which is split by Caledonia Road, but is still one property, and the two residual small single-family properties that were created. We would recommend those would go to the the RS8 zone, residential single-family. These are substantially steep properties. Almost all of these properties are over 40% slope. This one is slightly less, around 35% slope, but it's on a very difficult road, so that was our thinking in recommending that. The properties to the south that were created, when these were subdivided off, we had a remnant portion now owned by, it's called Caledonia Apartments LLC, the remnant property owned by Caledonia Development LLC. We would recommend RM8 for those properties. Again, they do have direct access onto Swannanoa River Road or Caledonia Road, so they do have better access, but they are still over 40% slope. So we recommended the RM, although the RM does allow some clustering. I think it's also worth noting that this what has been in the Silverman property has a conditional zoning overlay at Urban Place, but I've seen no activity lately, and that will expire in January. So that's potential in that area. The last one that I would recommend, excuse me. Okay. The other small recommendation I would make relates to a split property, which is up here. Some folks own that. It was split at some point in time, half RS8, half institutional, and we would just recommend that all be rezoned to the RS8. Should the council wish to ask staff to initiate a rezoning, language is included for that. However, legal staff might need to comment on how the several pending appeals to the Board of Adjustment in the courts might affect any action going forward, because there are multiple appeals and both sides have sued the city on various aspects of these properties as outlined in the report.
Yeah, members of council, I believe that most of the appeals, Ms. Bryson is here, and I believe that they're in the process of working out a resolution to at least 2 of the cases, but none of those cases, even if there was not an attempt to resolve the matter, would have an impact on council making a recommendation for staff to initiate a rezoning.
So that is my recommendations for these properties. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
All right, council, any questions?
Judy, you said the property there along Swannanoa Road, you mentioned the zoning is expiring in January?
On the Silverman property, right.
Yeah, tell me, can you elaborate what that means?
These are overlay zones, and you have a certain amount of time to act on them, and it was extended by the Permit Extension Act, okay. But eventually those give up the ghost too.
And what would it revert back to?
River. Oh, I'd also like to point out one little mistake in my report. I just, thank heavens for Blake, he's been making all the maps for me. This property actually goes on down and hits Swannanoa River, but I would want to retain the split zoning and keep the river where it touches. This property, which is separate, I would not recommend a change on it, but there's a little tongue of this one that comes down and hits Swannanoa River Road. Just want to clarify that. Anyone else? Okay.
All right, so council, this is sending it to P&Z to start the process, and so right now it's just, she needs direction. Is that a go or no-go for council?
Can I ask a question? You mentioned that there is language if we chose to move forward.
It should be, yeah, it's in your report.
I'm looking. My computer is not letting me scroll through this report very easily. Here.
Mayor, I've got the language here, and I'd be glad to move it. I move that the City of Asheville initiate a rezoning of the following properties: PIN 9648722062 and 9648714812 from institutional zone to RM16 zone.
Second.
I move that the City of Asheville staff be directed to work with the owner. This is, that's two different motions, I'm sorry, that was together. So I'll stop when Cecil seconded it, so if we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll open it up for public comment, and on the public comment, we'll do all three potential motions together as opposed to individual motions, only because they're all related, and we only had one presentation. Although we need three motions, we had one presentation, so we'll open it up for comment. And so when you're making your comment, you're making it on everything that you've already heard, not the individual motions. So we'll take them at this time. Yes, Mr. Meek.
Mayor, Vice Mayors, Council Members, my name is Terry Meek. My home is at 5 Pickwick Road, and I am a member of the Kenilworth Residents Association. I am a licensed architect. I've been that 40 years come January 1st. You know, we have a very astute professional staff for the city, and we're very fortunate to have that. And I looked at the analysis, and I looked at the recommendations, and I thought they were spot on with everything. And I would encourage you to at least put this in and let it run its course. I think they really nailed the appropriate zoning, the appropriate land use, with reference to traffic, with density, and with the slopes. So I just encourage you to move forward with this.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. And if you could just state your name for the record. And if you're speaking as an individual or a representative of a group.
Good evening, Mayor Bellamy and City Council members. My name is Valerie Ho. I live at 35 Finley Avenue, and I'm on the board of the Kenilworth Residents Association. My neighborhood...
I'm sorry, did you want 3 minutes or 10 minutes? That's
3.
Okay.
My neighborhood, it's because I'm so used to it now, I can do it without timing myself. It's been 3 years. Anyway, my neighborhood has been fighting the inappropriate development on Caledonia for over 3 years now. We are very thankful the developers abandoned his plans to build the 50 units, and now we will have 9 residential homes instead. However, with institutional zoning remaining on the rest of the property, that still leaves the possibility open for other inappropriate development. Continuing to allow spot zoning, approving 9 lots here, 4 lots there, and not look at the big picture of development in the southern end of Kenilworth would be a grave disservice to our neighborhood. If the city and city council were to look at this property for the first time, what would be the zoning? Surely institutional is not what would pop into any rational plan. 3 years ago, Mayor Bellamy, you and then City Council members did the right thing. You voted unanimously against the 100 units after seeing how inappropriate the steep slope and steep, narrow, substandard roads was for that development. Those same issues have not changed. The only thing that has changed and caused great concern for development on steep slopes is the recent heavy rains causing landslides and houses to fall down. Now is a good time for City Council to be proactive and vote yes to forwarding City staff's recommendations for the property to the P&Z Board for further study. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to? Yes, ma'am. And if you could just state your name for the record.
Hi, Mayor, City Council. My name is Tracy Stebbing. I live on 22 Finley Avenue. I'm also a licensed architect and have been involved in this process, while not recently, over the past 3 years. And I just want to reiterate what Terry Meek stated, that I'm also in full support of the city staff's recommendations. And in addition to that, I would employ you to look at other instances within the city where there's some spot zoning and do what I hope that you guys will do for us and eliminate these outdated zoning situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment. Council, questions, comments?
Mayor, question. You mentioned the lawsuits. Are there lawsuits taken by the property owner still effective at this time?
Yes.
And that the disposition of those suits will not be influenced by what we're doing here. This does not amount to something that we're going to be sued again for.
I would defer to legal counsel.
Well, I mean, there's no guarantee that you won't be sued.
But does it amount to a taking? Since
No, it does not amount to a taking. All council is doing tonight is instructing staff to initiate a rezoning, and there will be a further public hearing before P&Z and before City Council before a final decision is made as to whether or not to rezone the property. So there can be no taking merely by asking that a rezoning be performed.
Right. I was thinking of the broader picture of what we're doing.
Certainly, when the matter comes back to council, should council decide at that point in time to rezone, there's always the potential that there would be a dissatisfied or disgruntled party who may seek to appeal that decision. Whether or not they will seek an appeal is questionable at this point. And even if they were to seek an appeal, anyone can file a lawsuit. Not everybody can prevail.
Thank you. I'm supportive of the analysis. So just wanted to make sure we knew there are other implications later on.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Next motion.
You can.
Sure. I'm in the flow. I move that the City of Asheville staff be directed to work with the owner of PIN number 9648722-461 to initiate a rezoning from institutional CZ to RM16 CZ with no changes to the limiting conditions.
Second.
Any further questions or comments from council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Next motion.
Mayor, you mentioned there's 3 motions. I see.
Here's another one. I move that the City of Asheville initiate a rezoning of the following properties: PIN number 964871466, 96487268180, 964871868, and 964871862 from the institutional zone to the RS8 zone.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any further questions or comments from council? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries.
Seems there's one more.
There's one more. Ready? I move that the City of Asheville initiate a rezoning of a portion of the property PIN number 964-872-7364 from the institutional zone to the RS8 zone, placing the entire property into the RS8 zone.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. We have one more.
One more, yeah.
It's further up, right, Judy?
Yeah, here it is. I move that the City of Asheville initiate a rezoning of the following properties: PIN number 96487103117 and 96487130307 from the institutional zone to the RM8 zone.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. I need to address this. There were 2 more additional comments that could have been made. Any other member of the community wishing to address council? I just want to make sure that because we had 2 more motions as opposed to the 3 I've previously stated, I want to make, because I've worked with some people in the audience before, and technicalities are important to that person. So, anybody have a comment on the other 2 issues at hand this evening?
I need one correction, and I'm sorry. If you recall, I need you to say the portion of, I can't read it, that PIN that is zoned institutional be rezoned to RM8.
Would you bring it to the maker of the motion so they could read it verbatim?
This is an amendment to a previous motion?
This is the current motion. Because this is the one that was split between the river and the institutional, so it's the...
If you could bring it to Cecil so he can see it and so he can read it into the record.
It's which one is it? The
I just found this out. It's this PIN number, proportion of the Senate institutional.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
9.
No wonder you can't read it. It's the 1, 3, 3.
Is it? It's 964.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to restate the motion. How about that? I move that the City of Asheville initiate a rezoning of the following properties: PIN number 96487103117 and the portion of 9648713307, which is institutional, to the RM8 zone.
The motion is made and second. Is there a second? All right, and
Is there a second to the...
Second.
Any member of the community wishing to address council? Just want to give that opportunity because I talked about 3 previous motions and 2 additional have been added. Just don't want to leave anybody out because you were waiting on a specific pin. Seeing no one move forward. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. I'll turn it over to the Vice Mayor for boards and commissions.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The first board and/or commission that we need to make an appointment to is the Recreation Board, and we had no applications. And we discussed whether we should make board service compulsory, but we decided not to do that, and we're going to re-advertise this vacancy instead. On the next one, the River District Design Review Committee, Boards and Commission recommends not making any appointments because this committee is in the process of merging with the Riverfront Redevelopment Commission within the next 3 to 6 months, and then we will hear from them regarding any potential vacancies. Does anyone have an objection to that process? No. Okay. The Tourism Development Authority, on this appointment, we understand from the TDA that their nomination committee requests that this vacancy be re-advertised. Again, anyone have an objection to that process? Okay. And I need to make an announcement that, oh wait, we have one more, I'm sorry. There is a vacancy on the Public Art and Cultural Commission. We recently advertised this and made an appointment, so we have some fresh applicants, and we have a recommendation to appoint Constance Richards. Is that correct, Gordon? I got the right one. And if someone would...
Move to appoint Constance Richards to the Public Art and Cultural Commission.
Second.
Okay. And I'm just looking here to see. We're going to go ahead and make that appointment tonight. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then boards and commissions will be canceled on October 8th because City Council is not being held on October 8th. Okay. We have a closed session tonight?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I have one person who has signed up for public comment, Stuart David. No, boards and commissions? I think it was in our consent. Maggie, was the cancellation of the October 8th meeting in our next consent agenda? Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. Please proceed.
Ready? Okay.
Please state your name for the record before you begin.
My name's Stuart David, and Council, I know you already had an hour today that went to the dogs, but I'd like to change species on you and talk about the wisdom of allowing carriage horses in the Central Business District. In my opinion, it's inhumane to force a single horse to pull a very heavy carriage and a half a dozen people up steep hills on hot pavement while breathing toxic fumes nose to tailpipe. But I would like to just address public safety now. Over 20 years ago, this very council wisely prohibited carriage horses downtown in the Central Business District Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 1:30 and from 4:45 until 5:30 due to the dangers of carriages operating during rush hour traffic. I remember the early 90s. I remember how quiet downtown was even during the week. Would anyone disagree with me that weekend traffic today often greatly exceeds rush hour traffic 20 years ago? Besides increased traffic count, we have trolleys and tour buses with loudspeakers and megaphones. We have a bus followed by a nun on a giant unicycle. We have a drum circle, and now we have a brew cycle on the streets. In short, downtown now has a carnival atmosphere, and there is much new to spook a horse. Not to mention the sirens of emergency responders that have always been an issue. If carriages were dangerous 20 years ago during rush hour Monday through Friday, how on earth are they safe now in weekend traffic? Also, I'd like to note that prior council established and was advised by a horse carriage advisory committee on such issues, which is how they came up with this restriction. No such committee exists in the city today. Years ago, there was a horse carriage accident at the Grove Park Inn. Accidents are common in the U.S. Carriage horses in congested areas, there are accidents waiting to happen. I also think it's a foreseeable accident, and I wonder, will the city become involved in costly legal action should you have one here? I encourage you to ban carriage horses in the central business district before somebody gets injured or killed. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to? Yes, please.
Vice Mayor, members of council, I've expressed previously that no tax funds should go to the Art Museum, and the fund balance that the city has appropriated for this coming year is too small. And I continue to try to stop the tax support of the Art Museum. I'd like to ask a couple of questions this evening. Which ones of you, including the city manager, have made a contribution to the Art Museum Capital Fund Drive of more than $100? Who actually proposed the $2 million Art Museum renovation to be budgeted? City Council Planning and Development Committee, the city manager, or both? Can anyone tell me what the $2 million is supposed to be used for? The presentation that Kathy Ball made to you in June was incorrect. Has the City Council taken any action or plan to take any action regarding the fact that the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority held $1 million for 6 years, $500,000 for 4 years for the Art Museum? They defaulted on those grants. The Art Museum did. And then the Tourism Development Authority turned around and awarded $1.5 million. This is shameful action on the part of the TDA, in that there were other worthy organizations over that 6-year stretch that were ready to put their plans into action, unlike the empty promises of the Art Museum. Councilman Smith, I believe you are on for a council liaison to the TDA.
That's correct.
Has the TDA taken any action regarding the Art Museum grant default issues that I pointed out in their August board meeting?
The TDA followed their protocols, and they're comfortable with where it stands currently.
So holding $1.5 million from other projects is satisfactory to the council. Which council members who chairs the Council Finance Committee?
I do.
Who are the other members? Was it the Finance Committee that proposed the fund balance, or the city manager? Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry I missed the first part, but if there are questions, I can get the city manager to get the answers to the questions that you left unanswered, that were not answered this evening. I don't have any more printed sheets. Anyone else from the community wishing to address council this evening? If not, we're going to move to go into closed session.
Mayor, move that Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reasons. 1, to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to the laws of North Carolina or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes. The law that makes the information privileged and confidential is North Carolina General Statutes 143-31810E. Statutory authorization is contained in NCGS 143-318.11A1. 2, to consult with an attorney employed by the city about matters with respect to which the attorney-client privilege between the city and its attorney must be preserved, including litigation involving the following: A, State of North Carolina, Metropolitan Sewer District of Buncombe County, City of Asheville; B, W&K Hotels, LLC, DBA 4 Points by Sheraton, Hospitality Lodging Investors, LP, DBA Hotel Indigo, Nesbitt, Asheville Venture, LLC, DBA The Renaissance Hotel, City of Asheville, City Council of the City of Asheville, McKibben Hotel Group, Inc. C, D&J Real Estate Investments, LLC, City of Asheville. D, D&J Real Estate Investments, LLC, Wells Fargo Bank, National Association in its capacity as trustees for the registered holders of Salomon Brothers Mortgage Securities 7, Inc., Commercial Mortgage Pass-Through Certificates Series 2001-C2, Midland Loan Services, Inc., in its capacity as master servicer for Salomon Brothers Mortgage Securities 7, Inc., Commercial Mortgage Pass-Through Certificates Series 2001-C2, CW Capital Asset Management, LLC, in its capacity as special servicer for Salomon Brothers Mortgage Securities 7, Inc., Commercial Mortgage Pass-Through Certificates Series 2001-C2. E, D&J Real Estate Investments, LLC, Francis X. Coleman, trustee for Greenwich Capital Financial Products, Inc. The statutory authorization is contained in North Carolina General Statute 143-318.1A3. Third, to establish or instruct the city staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the city in negotiating the terms of contracts for the acquisition of real property at the Clarion Inn located at 550 Airport Road, Fletcher, North Carolina, by purchase, option, exchange, or lease. The statutory authorization is contained in GS 143-318.11A5. Fourth, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment of an individual public officer or employee. Statutory authorization is contained in GS 143-318.11A6, and to prevent the disclosure of information that's confidential pursuant to GS 16A-168, the Personnel Privacy Act. Statutory authorization is contained in GS 143-318.11A1.
I will second what I think is the longest closed session motion since in my tenure on council.
All right, before we actually go into closed session, there are a couple of things I just want to say that on tomorrow, our firefighters are going to recognize the annual 9/11 event. And it's an opportunity for our community to recognize firefighters and the work that they've done. On Sunday, Jan and I attended the 9/11 community-wide ceremony over at Trinity Baptist. And it was a wonderful ceremony, but one of the things I was surprised at, Mr. Jackson, is a number of firefighters who passed away over the last year. The city of Asheville had the most number, and I would love to be able to recognize those individuals' families for the work those firefighters did. I think it was, what, 7? I think
there were 7.
It was 7, and I was taken aback that we had lost that many through who were retired or just retired, through illness, through sudden issues. It was just eye-opening to be made aware of that, and so...
It's very somber and very well done, and a lot of pride in the number of firefighters from Asheville that has, most of those men were retired, men and women were retired with a number of years of service, so it would be fitting, I think, sometime to, especially as we honor our current firefighters this week, it would be nice to give recognition to those people. They didn't die in the line of duty.
Correct. I don't think I said that, but no, that, you know, I think just recognizing those who gave a lot of years of service to the city of Asheville would be befitting. But the And another thing is just to recognize, well, I'm really proud of the firefighters who are going to be recognized tomorrow. And so, Council, I do want to invite you all to that event. And the last thing is, September the 17th, 2013 marks the 226th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. And I just thought that was interesting to say, and I put that out there, that 226 years ago, our nation was just a baby, and we marked that on the 17th of this month, and I thought that little tidbit of history should be recognized today.
Mayor, I just missed you the other day when you were at Aston Tower to honor Miss Minnie Jones for her lifetime of service to the city and celebrate everything that she had accomplished, and awarded her the key to the city. And I don't know if you would want to speak to that a little bit. I had the opportunity to visit with Minnie.
Minnie Jones has worked on civil rights issues for nearly 42 years, specifically in the city of Asheville. She has advocated strongly for affordable housing, jobs, and health care when it comes to low-income people and people of color. And it was an honor to present her with the key to the city on Monday because of her work. And I think the biggest thing about Ms. Jones is if you've ever been in a meeting with her, you would know it. She did not mind breaking protocol when it comes to supporting people who have been disenfranchised or left out or neglected, and she's always worked hard for people. And most people don't know this about Ms. Jones, but before it was popular or even talked about with HIV and AIDS, Ms. Jones wanted people who were infected to get services. And she started through PBA having a health clinic in Pisgah View Apartments. And she said, anybody with any disease, anybody with any illness, anybody who's pregnant, who's not getting care, you come to my clinic. And she would get some people to volunteer to make sure that those people got their medications, got the services that they needed. And since then, the work has gone on. And last year, the clinic that bears her name served over 15,000 people in Buncombe County last year. But she has worked very hard for our community, and it was an honor. And I also gave a key to Ralph Sexton. Through his work, Hearts with Hands, I don't know how many remember the flood that we had here a few years ago. Hearts with Hands was right there to provide water to the residents of Asheville and Buncombe County, and they help every year with the backpacks to make sure that kids go home on a weekend with food in their backpacks. He works internationally. It's just been his labor of love for our community goes on eons as well, and I can go into as many details about him, but I won't belabor the point, but two great people this past week, and so thank you for allowing me to talk about those two things. Council, we have a closed session. We have a motion and a second. We're in closed session. We will adjourn from the closed session without any announcements.
Should we vote?
Oh, I guess we vote. All in favor? Aye. All right, we're in closed session.